Supercell tornadoes, some of the most destructive natural forces on Earth. Why some supercells produce tornadoes and others do not is something that can't be answered, but the shapes and sizes these tornadoes can certainly be explained. Possibly one of the most iconic tornado shapes is the rope tornado. Generally, these tornadoes are weaker as a whole, however, they can still cause some serious damage. One good example was the 2024 Westmoreland, Kansas EF3 tornado, which was a drill bit tornado, which is kind of a break off of a rope. It was the shape of a rope tornado, like I mentioned, but can be much more destructive. One of the strongest tornadoes of this variant was the Eli F5 tornado in Canada back in 2007, which was, for most of its life, more of a peaceful elephant trunk to cone tornado, striking few structures in its path until it came up across a neighborhood in Eli. It only caused its F5 destruction as it started to rope out. In this process, the power of the tornado is more focused in a specific spot as wind speeds quickly rise, and it lifted an entire house off the ground. Yes, that what you're seeing is an entire home that was lifted and exploded mid-air. But luckily, most of the time, rope tornadoes are weaker and seen as the beginning/end stages of tornadoes besides the funnel. Elephant trunk tornadoes. These twisters are usually the second to third stage of a tornado. Most of the time, they are generally weaker, similar to a rope, maybe EF0, EF1, but they can pack a punch and tear the roof off of your home. They usually stand very tall as the elephant trunks can meet their parent wall cloud further up than many other tornado variants. However, this tallness can help influence the tornado in a bad way, as their direction tends to change and cause more harm than many people may think. A good example of these elephant trunks came from a recent event of this year in 2025. May 23rd, Kit Carson, Colorado. This tornado had a high base from the ground to the parent wall cloud and had an absolutely stunning view. Luckily, this tornado didn't cause a whole lot of damage in the area of Colorado, but probably still gave a few people a pretty good scare. Cone-shaped tornadoes, these ice cream cone-looking windbags are occasionally violent beasts that are usually wider at the top and thinner towards the bottom, which gives them a cone shape. They aren't always strong and can certainly be weaker, most of the time seen as more like EF1 tornadoes, but they can certainly be strong EF2, EF3 tornadoes, and there has been cases where they've been stronger. A cone-shaped tornado struck West Texas in 2024, causing damage to a wind farm, shredding a wind turbine as it tracked eastward. It had an extremely dusty debris cloud toward the bottom and nearly struck a few storm chasers, notably legendary storm chaser Pecos Hank, who I personally watch all the time. Luckily, the dusty twister pushed off to the east and avoided the storm chasers on the road. Multi-vortex tornadoes. These tornadoes, to say simply, are probably the strangest ones on the list. These variants are probably one of the more popular ones, as they can look like octopus like tentacles branching off into all sorts of directions. But this one tornado that can be mentioned here is definitely probably the most popular example. Gerald, Texas, El Reno 2013, and the recent 2024 Iowa Greenfield tornado have all had impressive multi-vortex structures. El Reno probably being the most infamous for its deviant track and tricky nature. Many chasers left confused as you couldn't see the main vortex as well. It looked like the entire wall cloud was on the ground, and all you could see was multiple little vortices circling and dancing in the merry-go-round of death. The Twix team fell victim as they went straight into the tornado without realizing it, but it was too late. One of the members even mentioned that they feel like that they shouldn't be in that specific spot, and moments after he said that, the truck was struck by 200-mile-per-hour winds, rolling their truck in a field where none of them would survive. And there is a memorial out in El Reno for anybody who does not know that. You can go and see it. It's out in El Reno. Wedge tornadoes are, put shortly, terrifying. Imagine a mile-wide wall of death striking your neighborhood, leaving nothing but death behind, death and destruction. The strongest tornado of all time, the May 3rd, 1999 Bridge Creek Moore tornado, had recorded winds over 300 miles an hour. These behemoth tornadoes are usually associated with being extremely violent and deadly, which isn't always the case. In 2015, in rural Texas, a quarter-mile wide tornado touched the ground. It took the girth of a wedge tornado, but damage and radar analysis showed this tornado only had around EF1 mile per hour winds, or 86 to 110 miles per hour. Although incredibly scary and seen as violent EF4 plus tornadoes, we have to remember tornadoes can be virtually any shape and size. Sidewinder tornadoes, pretty much like rope tornadoes, they are obvious. Most of the time they're seen as kind of the end stages of a tornado, but these sneaky and mischievous twisters can be extremely dangerous. Even though if they're much weaker and cause a little damage, they can still pose a dangerous threat due to their unpredictable nature. Sidewinders get their name because of their ability to stretch out sometimes miles sideways from their parent wall cloud. They can kind of branch off by a couple miles. A good example of this is this tornado here, which struck near Belmont, Wisconsin. These incredibly weird and funky tornadoes are usually the end of a tornado's life, as the funnel becomes more unstable and the rope out process can leave the tornado open to move around a bit more freely. Satellite tornadoes are smaller, generally weaker tornadoes that briefly form off of a larger, much stronger tornado. Although they can do damage, most of the time they are absorbed into the larger, stronger tornado. However, sometimes these satellite tornadoes can actually be stronger than their counterpart, though it's very, very rare.